The stars were quiet that night, or at least they seemed quiet to human eyes. But in the far reaches of the galaxy, far beyond the usual routes of human exploration, a small blue planet spun in silence, its surface scarred and cities trembling. The Varelians, a fragile alien race, were sending a signal, a desperate call for help. Their technology had managed to push a message across space, a message meant to reach anyone who could intervene. The signal traveled light years, passing by systems of indifferent civilizations, slipping unnoticed past warlike empires, until it finally entered the listening range of humanity. The Earth government, always alert to unusual transmissions from space, detected the distress beacon. At first, the analysts thought it was a routine broadcast or perhaps a cosmic anomaly, but when the message stabilized and words formed in an understandable pattern, a cold silence fell over the council chamber. The Varelians' plea was simple, yet desperate. They described their world, Terran, as a place of once great cities now reduced to ruins, of sky-piercing towers toppled, and rivers turned black with the weapons of the Zerthons, a neighboring empire that sought nothing less than total conquest. The Varelians were helpless. Their leaders begged for protection, offering their knowledge, technology, and alliances to anyone who could stop the Zerthons before they finished the destruction. At the high table, Earth's council stared at the display. There were no shouts, no sudden reactions, just thoughtful, measured gazes. Humanity had learned caution. Centuries of observing other civilizations and occasional contact with alien races had taught humans that not every call for help needed immediate action. Sometimes the cries of desperation hid traps, or worse, test the boundaries of human patience and restraint. Dr. Livia Chen, a senior xenologist, broke the silence. "The message is genuine," she said quietly. "We can detect patterns in their broadcasts, stress signals, and even physiological readings from their leaders' transmissions. They are real, they are dying, and they cannot fight the Zerthons alone." Commander Arik Vale, a younger member of the council and captain of the exploratory vessel Horizon, leaned forward. His eyes were sharp, filled with that rare human mix of curiosity and courage. "And yet," he said, "we do nothing immediately. We watch, we calculate. That is human nature. But sometimes calculation is not enough. Sometimes action is required. If we wait too long, there will be nothing left to save." The council debated for hours. Some argued that intervening could provoke the Zerthons, a formidable and warlike species known for cruelty and efficiency. Others said the opportunity to forge an alliance with an advanced race of aliens could accelerate human technology and strategic power. The debate raged, and yet Earth did nothing beyond preparing an observational fleet. In orbit above Earth, the Horizon and its support vessels silently slipped into space. Their mission was clear: reach Terran, observe the planet, gather intelligence, and return. The humans would decide after careful analysis whether to act. To the Varelians, this was almost incomprehensible. Their vision of the galaxy was one where a call for help demanded immediate response. Waiting was alien to them, a betrayal more painful than the Zerthons' attacks. When the human sensors first scanned Terran, the scene was worse than anyone had expected. Cities lay in ruins. Smoke rose in plumes, streaking the sky with black and gray. Structures that once reflected the Varelians' elegance now seemed jagged and broken, standing as silent witnesses to the destruction. From orbit, humans could see the terrified inhabitants moving like ants across the devastated terrain, hiding in the remnants of their homes, scavenging what little remained. Commander Vale's voice was calm, but there was tension in his tone. "They're not only fighting for survival," he said. "They're fighting to remain a civilization. Every city they've lost weakens them socially and economically. If the Zerthons continue at this rate, there will be nothing left to defend." Dr. Chen added, "And yet, the Varelians are still sending signals. They want contact. They want allies. They are hoping someone will come, even at the risk of being seen as desperate." The human silence persisted. They monitored, analyzed, and waited. From the Varelians' perspective, it seemed like betrayal. Desperation grew into fear, and fear often turned to despair. Leaders on Terran began speaking openly to their people, broadcasting warnings that no help would arrive. Messages of hope were replaced with grim realities, and communities started preparing for the worst. Yet humanity's mind worked differently. Humans did not act rashly. They gathered intelligence, mapped the Zerthons' movements, calculated probabilities, and considered every outcome. Commander Vale and his crew moved carefully, sending probes into the cities, scanning the Zerthans' forces, studying the weapon patterns and fleet movements. They watched the Zerthans' attack waves, noting weaknesses, predicting strategies, and quietly forming a plan that no alien had anticipated. To the Varelians, human observation felt like cruelty. One leader, a tall figure named Saren Valon, cried over the comms feed. "You can see us burn and do nothing?" she demanded. Her voice trembled, raw with emotion. "We begged for help. We offered knowledge. We offered friendship. And yet you watch us die." Commander Vale did not respond directly. Humans did not make emotional decisions in public. Instead, he spoke to his crew privately. "They don't understand our ways," he said. "They see our silence as inaction. But there is a plan and it will be swift. They will not have to wait long." Meanwhile, the Zerthans continued their relentless advance. Massive warships tore across Terran's skies, firing energy weapons that vaporized buildings, obliterated bridges, and sent entire neighborhoods into rubble. Entire fleets of Varelian defense ships were destroyed before they could respond, and each strike left the people more fearful. From orbit, the humans watched the destruction with calm, unflinching eyes. One young Varelian child, visible through orbital scans, crouched in a ruined alleyway and stared at the sky as explosions lit up the horizon. Humans could see her fear, her confusion, and even her small glimmer of hope as she scanned the heavens for salvation. Commander Vale's heart clenched, but he reminded himself of the bigger picture. Humanity's intervention had to be perfect. Mistakes could cost millions more lives than the current attacks. The Council on Earth debated again, even as the Horizon relayed data. Some council members still feared retaliation from the Zerthans. "We cannot openly strike," said Admiral Kane. "We do not yet know their full reach. If we reveal ourselves, our homeworld could be at risk. But," said Commander Vale, "if we delay any longer, there will be nothing to save. The Varelians will be gone. Then our decision is meaningless. Humanity does not wait forever. We act when the time is right, and the time is coming." Hours turned to days. Humanity continued its silent observation, gathering every piece of information about the Zerthans' fleets, weapons, and supply lines. Every movement was tracked, every strategy predicted. Humans had a reputation for patience, for precision, and for a certain terrifying unpredictability. To the Varelians, this patience felt like a slow betrayal. To the Zerthans, it would soon feel like a trap they could not escape. Saren Valon, desperate, sent one final broadcast to Earth. Her message was raw and emotional. "If you do not help us now, we are lost. You cannot know the suffering, the fear, the loss. We offer everything, our knowledge, our guidance, our loyalty. Please help us." The humans received the message in silence. No words of comfort, no promises, just careful analysis. They recorded the transmissions, studied the frequencies, and adjusted their plans. Commander Vale watched the holographic displays of Terran cities, the movements of the Varelians, and the attacks of the Zerthans. "They will remember this," he said softly. "They will remember how we watched, and how we struck." The first part of humanity's response was not words. It was observation. It was understanding. It was planning. The universe had seen many races come and go, many heroes rise and fall. But humanity was different. Silent, patient, calculating, and when the time came, unstoppable. From orbit, the Horizon crew watched the Varelian cities, their hearts steady despite the chaos below. They knew their actions would change the course of history, but no one yet knew how, not even the Varelians themselves. All they could see was fire, smoke, and the desperate cries for help echoing across the void. Humanity was listening, and humanity would act, but only when the plan was ready. And in that moment, the galaxy waited. The Varelians waited. The Zerthans, unaware, continued their march toward domination. Humanity's silence stretched across the stars. A calm before the storm, a storm that would come faster and fiercer than any could imagine. For the first time, the Varelians wondered if anyone would save them. They did not yet know that the Watchers from Earth were already preparing fire. Fire precise, fire unstoppable, fire that would carve a path through the stars and into the hearts of those who thought the galaxy was theirs to command. The calm of space had a way of hiding danger. From the orbit of Terran, the Varelian planet, the human fleet observed the chaos below. Smoke rose in columns from shattered cities. Fires flickered across ruined streets. The Zerthans, arrogant and relentless, pressed their attack without pause, believing the planet would soon fall. Commander Auric Vale paced the bridge of the horizon, his eyes scanning the holographic projections of the planet and enemy movements. The crew around him moved with quiet precision, monitoring every signal, every ship, every weapon discharge. To anyone watching, it seemed humans were doing nothing, but in truth they were learning, analyzing, calculating every factor. Dr. Livia Chen joined him, her tablet glowing with the latest data. "They're organizing," she said. "Even in defeat, the Varelians are forming pockets of resistance. It's small, but their determination is remarkable." Vale nodded. "Determination alone won't save them. But understanding their enemy, now that is where humanity can tip the balance." On Earth, the Council continued to debate. Some leaders urged caution. "We cannot strike directly," said Admiral Kane. "The Zerthons are powerful. If we reveal ourselves too soon, our homeworld could be targeted." Others argued for intervention. "We have waited long enough," said General Merrick. "If the Varelians fall, it will not only be a tragedy, it will embolden every other empire that seeks to challenge humanity in the future." "Silence has a cost." Vale's voice came over the secure comm. "I understand the risks. But there comes a point when observation no longer counts as intelligence. Waiting any longer means allowing the Zerthons to destroy an entire civilization. That is not calculation. That is inaction." Meanwhile, on Terran, the Varelians felt the humans' silence as cruelty. Seren Valen, leader of one of the surviving city-states, broadcasted again to space. "Do you see our people? Our homes? Our families? We cry for help and no one answers. Is this how humans behave?" The humans did not respond publicly, but in private, Commander Vale addressed his crew. "They fear us. They believe our silence is indifference, but we act differently than they expect. We will act when the moment is right, and when we do, it will be decisive." The Horizon deployed stealth drones across Terran's orbit. These drones scanned every city, every battlefield, and even tracked movements of the Zerthans' supply lines. Humans studied the Zerthons' attack waves, noting patterns in their strategy. Ships moved in formations that were effective but predictable. Their weapons had destructive power, but their reload times and logistical weaknesses were visible. Humans observed, recorded, and prepared. On Terran, hope began to fade among the Varelians. Families hid in tunnels, children clung to elders, and leaders grew desperate. The messages from Earth, or the lack of them, felt like betrayal. "If no one comes," Seren Valen whispered, "we are lost. The universe does not care for our suffering." Yet even in despair, the Varelians fought. Small groups of resistance fighters ambushed Zerthon patrols. They sabotaged supply lines, set traps, and did what little they could. Humanity observed with interest. Commander Vale recognized the spirit of survival, something familiar and powerful. "Even a broken civilization has strengths," he told his crew. "We can use that. They do not yet see it, but their courage will be a key part of what comes next." Days passed. The humans continued to watch, gathering vast amounts of data. Every Zerthon fleet movement was catalogued. Every pattern, every weakness, every predictable behavior was noted. They did not act yet, not openly. They studied, they waited, they prepared, but patience has limits. Some humans felt frustration at the Council's hesitation. Lieutenant Kara Voss, Vale's second-in-command, frowned at the display. "We have enough information," she said. "Every day we wait, more Varelians die. How long before we are ready? The time for observation is ending." Vale considered her words carefully. "We are almost ready. Precision is everything. We will strike, but only when we can ensure it counts. That is how humans win wars, not by acting first, but by acting with certainty." The Zerthons, meanwhile, remained unaware of the Watchers from Earth. They assumed their attacks were unchallenged, and their confidence grew. Entire fleets patrolled the skies of Terran, confident that nothing could stop them. Their arrogance blinded them to the quiet humans observing, analyzing, and preparing from the shadows. Back on Earth, the Council was divided. Some argued for diplomacy, sending messages of warning or promises of future help. Others urged immediate intervention. But Commander Vale's intelligence reports were clear. A misstep could cost the humans dearly. The Zerthons had strength, but they had predictable weaknesses. Exploit them, and a small but precise force could achieve what no alien ally alone could. Human scientists worked tirelessly. Dr. Chen coordinated simulations, testing every scenario against the Zerthans' movements. They examined the Varelians' remaining technology and military assets. "They have potential," she said, "but without support they will not survive. We must integrate their strengths carefully. Every asset counts." Vale smiled slightly. "That is the essence of humanity. We do not waste potential. We adapt, we exploit opportunity, and when we strike with precision." The Varelians, unaware of the depth of human planning, grew increasingly anxious. Saren Valen sent another broadcast. "We have watched the stars for centuries, waiting for help from allies, from friends. And yet the universe seems silent. If you are truly human, prove it. Do not let silence be the answer to our cries." Humans received the message in silence. They recorded it, analyzed the language and emotional cues, and stored it for strategic use. Vale addressed his crew. "They are desperate. That is the effect we want to see, but not the effect we exploit. We will earn their trust, but on our terms. Patience is not weakness, it is preparation." In the observation deck, crew members looked at the planet below, children hiding in rubble, elders leading small groups through ruined streets, and leaders trying to maintain hope amidst despair. Humans did not flinch. They observed patterns, calculated movements, and began to formulate a plan that would turn desperation into a weapon of survival. Some human analysts struggled with the ethical weight. "We watch them die while we do nothing?" one asked quietly. "Is that right?" Commander Vale's reply was firm, almost philosophical. Right and wrong are not always measured by immediate action. Sometimes the greater right comes from preparation. The Zerthons are powerful but predictable. We will strike when the cost is minimal and the effect maximum. That is human strategy. That is why we survive. Across Terran, the Zerthons' attacks intensified. Energy weapons burned through cities, reducing streets to molten rubble. Entire defensive fleets of the Varelians were destroyed in single coordinated strikes. Fear spread and whispers of abandonment grew among the people. "The humans will not come," some said. "We are alone," but Vale knew differently. Humanity was preparing fire, and when that fire came, it would be sudden, precise, and devastating. The Varelians could not see it yet, but hope had not left them entirely. Their courage and persistence would be amplified by humans' action. And the Zerthons would soon learn that silence does not mean weakness. Days turned into weeks. Observations continued. Every Varelian tactic, every Zerthon formation, every natural feature of the planet was mapped. Humans tested strategies and simulations and ran hundreds of virtual battles. Each failure in simulation taught them more about the enemy. Each success built confidence for the real engagement to come. Vale spoke to his crew privately. "They think we are silent. They think we do nothing. But when we act, it will be beyond their expectations. Patience and precision are our greatest weapons. Remember this. Fire does not announce itself before it arrives. It comes, and when it does, it changes everything." On Terran, the Varelians prepared for the worst. Families fortified what remained of their homes. Leaders trained fighters and coordinated desperate defenses. Every day of human silence felt like another day closer to annihilation. Yet within that despair, some still clung to hope, hoping against hope that the mysterious watchers in the stars would act. And in orbit, the humans watched, analyzed, and prepared. They understood the stakes, respected the courage of the Varelians, and calculated the risks of every possible move. Humanity's silence was a mask, a strategy. Soon that silence would end, and when it did, fire would follow. Fire unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. The Varelians did not know it yet. They could only hope. But Commander Vale and the humans around him knew one truth. The universe had never seen patience like this. And the storm humanity was preparing would change everything. The silence of the human fleet finally ended. From the horizon's bridge, Commander Arik Vale watched the stars beyond Terran, calm and steady. The Zerthons, confident in their strength, had no idea what was coming. To them, humans were observers, silent and harmless. They did not notice the fleets gathering in the dark spaces beyond the reach of Terran sensors. They did not realize that every attack they had launched, every strike against the Varelians had been carefully observed, studied, and recorded. Vale turned to his crew. "Today observation ends," he said. His voice was steady, but there was fire behind it. "We strike not to kill without purpose, but to save. The Zerthons believe they are invincible. We will show them otherwise. Precision, speed, control, that is humanity's way." The humans had prepared meticulously. Using data collected over weeks, they had identified key supply chains, forward command centers, and vulnerable fleet formations. Drones, stealth ships, and orbital strike units were ready. Every movement had been rehearsed in simulations hundreds of times. Humans were patient, but when they acted decisively. The first target was a Zerthon forward command post orbiting one of Terran's moons. The post was heavily guarded, bristling with weapons and shielded by energy barriers. From orbit, the humans waited for the moment when the Zerthons would be most vulnerable. Vale activated the command console. "Engage stealth units," he ordered. "Drones first. Observe and confirm positions. Timing is everything." The drones slipped past Zerthon sensors, almost invisible against the backdrop of space. They scanned the facility, mapping defenses and broadcasting live feeds back to the horizon. Humans coordinated silently, every crew member executing their role perfectly. On Terran, the Varelians could not understand what was happening. They had given up hope, expecting only death. Then suddenly energy signatures appeared in the skies above the Zerthans' positions. Human ships unseen until now struck with precision. Explosions erupted across the command post. Shields faltered. Weapons turned on themselves as human hacking drones infiltrated systems, turning the Zerthons' own defenses against them. The humans did not indiscriminately destroy. Every strike was targeted, designed to disable, confuse, and intimidate. The Zerthons screamed in fury over communication channels, trying to coordinate a response, but it was too late. Humans moved faster than they could react. Their speed, intelligence, and precision were unmatched. The Varelians, watching from below, could hardly believe what they were seeing. Ships appeared from nowhere, struck and disappeared, leaving the Zerthons in chaos. Vale watched the feeds, calm and focused. "Phase 1 complete," he said. "Prepare Phase 2. Target supply lines and secondary fleets. Disrupt their operations completely." Across Terran, small Varelian resistance groups began to notice the changes. Where before there had been only despair, now there was confusion in the Zerthon ranks. Supplies vanished. Patrols were destroyed. Trapped units surrendered or fled. The Varelians whispered among themselves, hope returning cautiously, like sunlight after a long storm. For humans, this was expected. Vale had told his crew, "Our goal is not to burn them down indiscriminately. Our goal is to change the balance of power, so the Varelians have a chance to survive. Fear, confusion, disruption, these are tools." The second phase struck next. Human units hit the Zerthons' fuel depots, communication hubs, and supply convoys. Ships that had felt invincible moments before were destroyed or disabled. Each attack was measured, controlled, and overwhelming in its efficiency. The Zerthans had never faced an enemy like this. A force that did not rush recklessly, yet struck with such certainty, was beyond their comprehension. On Terran, Seren Valen's eyes widened as reports came in from her people. "Humans," she whispered, almost in disbelief. They are saving us." Vale allowed himself a small nod. He knew the Varelians were watching, even if they did not fully trust humanity yet. "Let them see," he said. "Hope is part of what we are restoring." Despite the success, humans remained disciplined. They did not celebrate, they did not gloat. Every ship, every crew member, every strike was part of a larger strategy. They could not afford to become careless. The Zerthons were powerful, and arrogance could not be underestimated. Meanwhile, the Zerthons scrambled to respond. Fleets tried to regroup. Commanders barked orders, trying to make sense of the sudden chaos. But their strategies, once predictable, now failed under the weight of human precision. Ships collided, shields overloaded, and entire units were trapped by maneuvers they had never anticipated. Humans exploited their patterns, attacking where the Zerthons expected nothing, avoiding traps they thought impossible to evade. Commander Vale addressed his crew. "They believe they control the battlefield. They do not. That is our advantage. Continue the pressure. Keep them off balance. Our goal is to break their command, not merely their ships." In the Varelian cities, people looked up at the sky with growing wonder. Explosions now signified not fear, but a strange form of safety. The unknown humans were acting with intelligence and purpose, and their firepower was beyond anything the Varelians had imagined. Even small children pointed to streaks of light in the sky, hoping they would continue, hoping the humans would not leave. The human strike was not without care for collateral damage. Vale instructed teams to avoid targeting Varelians or their cities. Humans understood that the Varelians' survival was as important as defeating the enemy. Every calculation, every trajectory, every impact was measured. Precision was the hallmark of humanity in combat. A combination of technology, intelligence, and instinct honed over centuries. As the hours passed, the Zerthons' confidence shattered. Their fleets faltered. Their supply lines were crippled. Their command structures were broken. And yet, they still fought, desperate and angry. They had not expected humans to intervene, and they had no understanding of the force they faced. Vale watched a live feed of a Zerthon command cruiser. It burned from multiple precise strikes, systems failing, alarms screaming. And then the humans did something unexpected. They allowed the ship to retreat. Not out of mercy, but strategy. Vale knew that forcing a full retreat now would scatter the Zerthons, leaving them vulnerable to future strikes. Discipline, patience, and control were humanity's way. By the end of the first day, the Zerthons had lost critical positions and suffered massive disruption. The Varelians, still cautious, allowed themselves to hope. For the first time in months, they dared to believe that survival was possible. Vale addressed his crew once more. "We have begun, but this is only the start. The Zerthons will respond. They will come back stronger. Our advantage is knowledge and preparation. Every step we take must be measured. The moment of silence is over. The moment of fire has begun." In Terran's skies, humans moved like ghosts, striking swiftly and vanishing before the enemy could retaliate. The Varelians watched, uncertain whether to rejoice or fear, but they began to see humans in a way they never had before. Not as observers, not as distant watchers, but as allies, precise and relentless and capable of changing the course of war with a single calculated strike. The Zerthons, meanwhile, struggled to comprehend the scale and efficiency of the human attack. They had dominated worlds, crushed civilizations, and believed no race could outmatch them. And yet here were humans unseen and unstoppable, rewriting the rules of combat and strategy in ways they could not predict. Commander Vale closed the day's operations with a simple statement. Observation served its purpose. Now we act. Humanity does not act blindly. We strike with knowledge. We strike with precision. And when the next wave comes, we will be ready. The Varelians will survive, and the Zerthons will learn the cost of underestimating us. Below in the ruined cities, people dared to hope. Above, in orbit, humans watched with calm determination. And across the stars, a message of power, precision, and warning began to take shape. Humanity's fire was coming, and it would not be ignored. The first strike was over. The battle lines had shifted, and in the quiet between attacks, the galaxy began to realize that humans were not a species to be underestimated. They were silent, patient, precise, and when they acted, their fire would be unstoppable. The silence of space shattered. The Zerthons, furious and humiliated by humanity's first strike, launched a massive counterattack. Fleets that had once moved confidently now swarmed toward Terran in anger, firing energy weapons, missiles, and automated drones. They believed overwhelming force would crush the humans and restore their dominance. They did not understand what they were up against. From the Horizon's bridge, Commander Arik Vale watched the incoming fleet on the holographic display. "They think brute force will work," he said calmly. "It never has and it never will. Prepare for engagement." Human ships moved into position with deliberate precision. Unlike the Zerthons, humans did not throw numbers at a problem. They used strategy, speed, and coordination. The small fleet scattered in ways the Zerthons could not predict, turning their apparent advantage into a trap. Vale activated the battle plan. Phase 1, disrupt the forward attackers. Use stealth and long-range strikes to fracture their formation. Phase 2, isolate command ships. Phase 3, control the battlefield. The first phase began silently. Human drones slipped through the swarm, disabling engines, interfering with communications, and planting virtual decoys. The Zerthons, confused by sudden system failures, began colliding with one another in a panic. Human warships moved through the chaos like predators in the dark, striking precisely and vanishing before retaliation. Dr. Livia Chen monitored the operations. "They are panicking exactly as we predicted," she said. "Every move we calculated is unfolding perfectly. The Zerthons are fast, but their predictability is their weakness." On Terran, the Varelians watched in awe. Fires still raged across their cities, but above the smoke a new hope began to grow. Humans were not just helping. They were dominating the enemy with intelligence, patience, and overwhelming precision. Seren Valen's voice broke over the comms feed. "We have never seen power like this," she said, trembling. "It is not just strength. It is understanding. It is humanity." Vale allowed himself a small smile. "They will remember this," he said. "Not just as saviors, but as a species they cannot ignore. Stay focused. Victory is not in destruction. It is in control." The second phase targeted the Zerthon's command and control ships. Human warships and stealth drones infiltrated the fleet's inner perimeter. They disabled shields, redirected weapons, and forced the Zerthons into positions where escape was impossible. Communications failed, panic spread, and order broke down completely. Zerthon leaders, unprepared for humans' tactics, screamed over emergency channels. Their fleets had been confident and overwhelming. Now confusion, fear, and frustration spread faster than any human strike could. Ships turned on each other, weapons misfired, and entire squadrons surrendered or were destroyed. Vale watched carefully. "Do not underestimate them," he warned. "They are angry and dangerous. Keep control. Discipline wins battles faster than rage." Meanwhile, on Terran, small groups of Varelian fighters joined in, encouraged by the humans' actions. They sabotaged remaining Zerthon outposts, coordinated ambushes, and took advantage of the enemy's confusion. The combination of human strategy and Varelian courage created a force far greater than either alone. Lieutenant Kara Voss at Vale's side nodded at the reports. "They are learning quickly," she said. "The Varelians will become a real part of this fight, not just bystanders." Humans maintained strict precision. They did not destroy entire cities, nor did they kill indiscriminately. Every strike was calculated. Every maneuver had purpose. The fire humanity brought was not chaotic. It was surgical, exact, and terrifying to those who underestimated them. The Zerthons attempted to reorganize. Fleets that had survived the first human onslaught tried to form defensive lines, expecting brute force to overwhelm the humans. But humans were not overwhelmed. Using advanced sensors, strategic projections, and timing, they turned the battlefield into a deadly trap. The Zerthon's confidence shattered further. Vale addressed his crew over the comm system. "This is what makes humans different. We do not rush recklessly. We calculate. We anticipate. We adapt. Every move the enemy makes is another advantage for us. Keep pressure constant. Let fear guide them into our control." Explosions lit the void as human strikes disabled key weapon systems on Zerthon cruisers. Ships drifted helplessly, unable to fire or move effectively. The Zerthons had faced many enemies, but they had never fought an opponent who could predict their every action and exploit their weaknesses so efficiently. From Terran, Saren Valen watched her people take cautious steps out of hiding. Children peeked from ruined buildings. Families huddled together, no longer paralyzed by despair. "They are changing everything," she said softly. "The humans, they are unstoppable." Vale knew the final phase was crucial. Command ships had to be controlled, supply lines cut, and remaining fleets neutralized. Humans moved with a rhythm, like a dance of destruction and precision. Ships that should have been safe were now trapped. Fleets that were confident moments ago now scattered in confusion. The Zerthons realized too late the cost of underestimating humanity. They had faced countless species, but none that could match humans' combination of patience, intelligence, and firepower. They were learning a lesson that would not be forgotten. In the galaxy, silence can hide power, and humans are never silent forever. As the battle continued, Vale gave the final command. Phase 3, consolidate control, protect the Varelians, force the enemy to retreat, end this engagement with minimal collateral damage. The humans struck quickly, disabling remaining Zerthon fleets and securing orbital positions around Terran. Ships retreated, command structures were dismantled, and the Zerthons' morale was shattered. The humans had achieved complete control without unnecessary destruction. On Terran, the Varelians dared to celebrate quietly. Fire still burned and the land was scarred, but above the destruction, human ships hovered, steady and vigilant. The invincible enemy had been humbled, and hope returned to the people who had thought all was lost. Vale addressed his crew after the battle. "This is why humans survive. We do not rely on numbers alone. We do not rush blindly. We calculate, adapt, and strike with precision. Today, the Zerthons learned the cost of underestimating humanity. Tomorrow we will continue to protect those who cannot defend themselves." Dr. Chen looked at the planetary feed. "They will remember this. The Varelians will see humans not only as saviors but as a species capable of mastery over war itself." Vale nodded. And that is the lesson the rest of the galaxy must learn. Humans are not just observers. We are strategists, fighters, and allies. And when we act, fire follows. In the skies above Terran, human ships glowed faintly, a reminder of the force now present. Below, the Varelians slowly began repairing their defenses, reorganizing, and believing that survival was possible. Even the children whispered tales of humans who appeared like shadows and struck with unstoppable precision. The Zerthons had retreated, but they would not forget. The galaxy had witnessed humans act, and it would spread quickly. A new power had emerged, one that could not be ignored, underestimated, or defeated easily. Humanity's fire had begun. As the horizon adjusted its orbit and the crew prepared for future operations, Vale reflected on the day. They will retaliate, he said. They always do. But every step we take teaches them fear, respect, and caution. That is the true strength of humanity, not in overwhelming numbers, but in precision, intelligence, and patience. That is why we survive, and why the Varelians will survive as well. And across the universe, the message spread. Humanity had arrived not as distant observers, not as helpless onlookers, but as a force that could shape outcomes, protect the innocent, and strike with unstoppable fire. The first full battle was over. Humans had won without chaos. The Zerthons had been humiliated, their fleet scattered, their plans disrupted, and the Varelians had witnessed something extraordinary, a species whose patience, strategy, and firepower could bend the course of war itself. In the quiet that followed, Commander Vale looked out at the stars. The galaxy will remember this, he said softly, and they will remember humanity's fire. The war was not yet over, but the humans had spoken, and the message was clear. Underestimating humanity comes with a price, and that price is fire from the void. The battle had ended, but the war was not yet over. Above Terran, the human fleet hovered in quiet dominance. The Zerthons had retreated to regroup, their forces battered and disorganized. Across the Varelian cities, people emerged cautiously from hiding, scanning the skies for threats that no longer loomed. Fires still burned in ruined streets, but hope had returned in ways no one could deny. Commander Auric Vale stood on the horizon's bridge, watching the scene below. They will not attack again immediately, he said. They know the cost of challenging us, but the galaxy is wide. Other empires will watch this, and they will understand humanity's strength. Dr. Livia Chen turned to him. The Varelians are beginning to organize. Small groups are reclaiming neighborhoods, establishing communication lines, and recovering supplies. Your first strike gave them confidence, Vale nodded. Confidence is a weapon as powerful as any fleet. They fought their fear. Now they can fight their enemies. Below, Seren Valan, leader of one of the surviving city-states, moved carefully through a ruined street. Her people followed, gathering supplies, helping the wounded, and rebuilding defenses. She looked up at the human ships in orbit and whispered, almost in disbelief, "They came when we needed them. Humanity, they are unlike any other." The Varelians had begun to understand the humans' unique way of war. Patience, observation, calculation, and then, the sudden precise strike that left enemies scattered and allies inspired. This was not just power, it was intelligence in motion, a force guided by reason and courage. Vale issued new orders. We will stay in orbit until the Zerthons cease major offensives. We will coordinate with the Varelians to rebuild their defenses and ensure they can survive without our constant presence. But we will not leave until we are certain the enemy understands they cannot return without severe cost. Human ships deployed drones to help map the cities, locate survivors, and deliver essential supplies. Unlike most interventions, humanity did not impose or dominate the Varelians' rebuilding. They facilitated, guided, and protected. Every move reinforced that humans were allies, not conquerors. Seren Valan watched as small drones delivered medical supplies, repaired critical systems, and restored communications. Her people whispered among themselves, "The humans are careful. They do not destroy more than necessary. They act with precision, with purpose." Vale's voice came over the comms to her. "We are here to ensure survival, not to conquer. Your people are brave. Your civilization is worth protecting. But the Zerthons must learn the price of aggression." Even as humans coordinated aid, sensors detected movements in the distance. The Zerthons had regrouped, sending a fleet to test humanity's resolve. Vale's eyes narrowed. "They are testing us," he said. But we are ready. Prepare for engagement but not destruction. Let them see consequences without annihilation. The humans acted with controlled fire. Drones and stealth units disrupted the Zerthon's approach, forcing retreats, disabling engines, and redirecting weapons without harming civilians. For every aggressive maneuver, humans delivered a precise counter demonstrating dominance and strategy. The Zerthons understood that they could not challenge humanity without risking ruin. Seren Valen gathered her leaders and addressed them. Observe them. This is how humans fight. They do not waste lives unnecessarily. They think, they calculate, and they act. And when they do act, they are unstoppable. Vale coordinated with Varelian leaders to strengthen planetary defenses. Humans shared knowledge of tactics, defensive patterns, and early warning systems, ensuring the Varelians could protect themselves even after the fleet departed. Dr. Chen explained the importance of knowledge. The human's gift is not just in firepower, it is in understanding. They teach survival. They empower others to continue even when they are gone. Small Varelian communities, once paralyzed by despair, now acted with confidence. They repaired bridges, rebuilt communication networks, and formed small defense units. The presence of humanity had changed them. Courage replaced fear. Strategy replaced chaos. Even children began to learn from what had happened. Stories spread of humans who appeared from the stars, struck with impossible precision and vanished, leaving hope and survival in their wake. Tales of fire that came without warning, yet only against those who threatened life, inspired a generation that had known only defeat. Vale allowed his crew a moment of quiet pride. "We have done what observation alone could not achieve," he said. "We have protected the innocent, humbled the arrogant, and given hope to those who had none. And we did it without needless destruction. This is humanity at its best." The Zerthons, battered and humiliated, sent a final message, a tentative request for ceasefire. Their tone carried the weight of fear and respect. They understood the cost of another confrontation. Humanity's fire had delivered a clear message. Attack and the consequences would be total. Vale transmitted the response. "Ceasefire accepted. Any further aggression will meet the same consequences. Humanity does not fight without reason, but we do not tolerate needless threats to life." Across Terran, the Varelians celebrated cautiously. They had survived, and the humans had ensured it. Cities would take years to rebuild, but life was possible again. Leaders whispered gratitude to the Watchers in the stars who had struck with fire, and yet with wisdom. Vale addressed his fleet one last time before departure. "We have acted with precision, with restraint, and with courage. Humanity does not conquer for glory. We conquer with purpose. Let the galaxy see this day. Let it remember the cost of aggression against the innocent. We have spoken with fire, and the message has been received." The fleet moved away from Terran, leaving behind a stabilized planet. Varelians now had the tools, knowledge, and confidence to protect themselves. The fires in the skies had become symbols of hope rather than fear. Seren Valen watched the human fleet disappear into the void. She whispered to her people, "They came not just to fight, but to teach. We have survived because of them, and we will endure. Humanity. They are the allies we never expected, but the ones we will never forget." In orbit, Commander Vale reflected quietly. Humanity had intervened, but they had done more than strike. They had empowered, protected, and taught. Every calculation, every maneuver, every act of fire had been measured. They had proven their strength not only in combat, but in wisdom. Dr. Chen approached him. "The Varelians will rebuild. They will survive. And the Zerthons will think twice before attacking anyone again." Vale nodded. "Humanity does not seek war for glory, but when war is necessary, we act with precision, patience, and fire. That is our gift. That is our warning. That is who we are." The stars stretched endlessly before them, silent once more. The galaxy had witnessed something new. The humans were not conquerors, not observers, but a force to be reckoned with, a species capable of patience, intelligence, and decisive action that could shape the fate of entire civilizations. And somewhere, in the hearts of those who had watched Terran burn and then breathe again, hope took root. The message was clear. Humanity would not ignore a call for help, and when they acted, fire would follow, but fire measured, precise, and unstoppable. As the horizon and the fleet turned homeward, Commander Vale allowed himself one final reflection. "The galaxy knows us now," he said quietly. "Not as observers, not as distant watchers, but as humans. Silent, patient, precise, and, when necessary, unstoppable. For the Varelians, the nightmare had ended. For the Zerthons, a warning had been delivered. And for humanity, another chapter had begun. A chapter where courage, intelligence, and fire from the void became the defining measure of who they were. The stars watched in silence, but the echoes of humanity's fire would resonate forever.